Happy birthday, if it's your birthday. Happy played birthday if it's in the past. Happy future birthday if it's in the future. My name is Lon Green. Welcome to the Odd Time Podcast, the podcast where you, yes, you, decide for me to play games. And then I sit down and I play them. This time it's NieR Automata. But I have played Mega Man Battle Network 1 and 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, like a whole bunch of games. But we're talking about NieR Automata this time. This is like episode 4 or something. I don't even know. It's a later episode, but not too later. How we divide these episodes up is like every 2 bosses. You can tell it's been a little while. But there's a reason for that. And we'll get into it here. You know, the little intermission in between episodes. You know, this little part gave me a little trouble. But not for... Well, yeah. We'll say for the reasons you think. So I guess we'll just really get into it and pick up where we left off. And where we left off, last time we defeated this just Goliath of a boss. I compared it to a Super Mario Galaxy, not a boss in Super Mario Galaxy, an entire level. It was insane, and I needed to like level up throughout the fight to get the chance of even beating it. It was crazy. And at the end of the fight, 9S like just explodes and like tons of Yorha units are like blown to pieces, and 2B wakes up and like there's carnage all around. So you have to get like this scanner thing, and your assignment now is to like try and scan, trying to find where 9S is. Like I said last time, I didn't think 9S would be dead. That would be a crazy thing for them to do. But I didn't believe he really was. So here I am. I'm scanning the area. There's like Yorha units all around. Some are dead, some aren't. And I was like entirely using the scanning function wrong. I thought it led me to like this machine coliseum thing, and I'm like, yo, this is gonna be like Glitzbit, 1,000-Year-Old Door, one of my favorite games. We have to like fight to get the chance to save 9S, and then I did that for a little bit. That was crazy. I got my butt kicked. Turns out that's not where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to like find this specific Yorha unit, and then they tell you, hey, go here. And you go there, and it's like deep in the big pit with the alien base, and you go there, and you kind of like go along this tunnel to this elevator, and going down there, you see like this brand new city. Like, when I say brand new, I mean like sparkling, like the one SpongeBob episode, like everything in the future's covered in chrome. It's not really chrome, it's like white, like crystalline type deals, or like more so cubes than crystals, cubish crystals. I don't know. And you see Yorha units like scattered in the streets, very ominous. Eventually you make your way up to like the center of town. Really, there's like nobody else there, and that's when you fight Adam for this would be either third or fourth time. So the first phase of this fight is another one of those like back and forth talking kind of fights, which I really appreciate and I really love because it feels, I'm not even sure, I want to say grand, but that doesn't fit. Feels both like it explains things and it has like gameplay. Like I feel like other games will have just done like a cutscene, but this is like a playable cutscene. And I'm not talking QTEs, but you can really tell that Adam's like pulling his punches. Adam wants you to know their plan, and their plan is Adam made this entire city, right? And it's just for like trying to study like humans, what makes them tick. And it's kind of interesting if you flip on its head. It's like, humans created machines, and now this sort of machine is kind of like trying to study humans. It, it's a interesting thought experiment, question mark. It really flips the script. Now you enter the second phase and Adam reveals, uh-oh, 9S was here all along, and he's got like spikes impaling through him. And I'm like, okay, 9S is definitely still alive. There he is, and he's not dying anytime soon. This phase I had a lot more trouble with because I'm like, I don't need to dodge. Who needs to dodge? I don't need to dodge. And then I got hit with, he's throwing like huge blocks that make up the city at you, and I just got demolished by those a lot and had to, play up through, down the huge crater, down the elevator. You have to fight your way up to the elevator, through the city, skip the little cutscene, fight the phase one again, just for a chance. Also, a little nitpick here, but once you use a healing item and you die, the healing item does not come back. I will thought the healing item will have come back because, doesn't that make your attempt not valid? I don't know, but I had to track down some more healing items at one point. But I don't know. Maybe it's like that portion or that unit of 2B died with the recovery items. I don't know. And then you're playing like a different 2B theory. I don't know. Get game theory on this. Eventually I did beat Adam, and 2B just like skewers him, runs him through. That was crazy. And I believe he dies. He just kind of falls to the ground, and then 2B grabs 9S and gets 9S out of there. Like I said last episode, I think how it works is once you have a full health bar and your health bar like drops to 0, then you're like dead in this game. But if you're a boss and you escape and you have like some health left, you're not like actually dead. After all that, you head back to the resistance camp, and Pascal gives you a little ring, and Pascal's like, hey, I heard some whispers on the wind about some other machines that may also, may not be into this whole fighting thing. They have like a little group set up over by the factory, the prologue part, and you and me, we can go check them out. So I was thinking we could. How it was gonna set up was like we have Pascal's village, and then we were gonna have like another village, and then we'll just keep having villages like all over, and like the entire game would be like eventually at the end it would be like good machines, peaceful machines all over, and then just villages all over. A little King's story. But if you played this game, you know that's not true at all. So 2B and Pascal go into this huge factory, and the machines are there, and they're like, we'll give you a little tour, we'll take you to the leader, it's a nice little thing. And then you go into this one room, and it's like, uh-oh, this isn't this isn't a nice little non-violent machine village. This is like a violent machine cult. And then all of a sudden, like, everything switches. And this is also when I learned, like, Pascal truly is like a pacifist. There's something in that name, Pascal, pacifist. I just realized right now at this very second. But I was like, come on, Pascal, you gotta do something. Give me a weapon if you don't want to fight. All these robots, they're coming at you. They want to like sacrifice, or they want you to kill them and like help them ascend to like a higher plane. And it's like crazy. It's a cult. And it leads into like this crazy we'll say 2.5D side scrolling scene. And this is the segment where I truly, you're gonna say, how did you do that, Lime Green? I'm not sure how I did it, but I really did get lost in this little area. And all it is like you gotta go from like left to right, right? And but it feels so much more confusing than it is, because you gotta go into like little towers and then go up and go left, and then some portions are locked off, and some portions have little healing stations, right? And the map feels kind of useless, and you also can't use your little vending machine thing to get out of there. There are also limited areas where you can heal or buy healing items, I guess. And that was kind of screwing with me, because if you forgot, I'm kind of usually always under level, and there's like huge swaths of just enemies and then like crushers and then giant pits. That was crazy. And oh my gosh, I almost forgot. There's this one enemy I despise this enemy that just like, okay, let me paint you a mental picture. You go through this door, and it felt like just the nanosecond I went through this door, there was this enemy that would just run up and explode. So I was like, okay, I'll just tank the one explosion. And then here comes another one. Boom. Like, second explosion, I would be dead. So that got me like, I don't even know how many times, to be honest. Because the way I found out to do it is like, get out of the door and like immediately run to the left, because you're just buying yourself as much time as possible, and then just use your, what's it called, your little drone gun and just fire at them relentlessly until they just explode as far away as possible from you. That was my way of dealing with it, because those were the most annoying things I've ever faced in this game yet thus far. And then you make your way up to the boss. Well, before of which, you make your way through. There's more machines. They're like doing swan dives into lava. They're like crushing themselves in like hydraulic press. This is a hydraulic press channel. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Then you get up to the boss. That section was pretty, what would you say, atmospheric. The boss was another level. First off, I don't think this boss had anything to do with anything you've seen up until this. It's just another big Goliath type enemy. Second off, here's another mental picture. You enter, and it's like Pokemon Stadium 2 on Melee. It's a giant circular platform with both of the sides, or all the sides really, are just like bottomless pits. So I'm like, okay, I'm never going to like get close to the sides. But once the boss comes out, 9S is like, hey, I'm going to try and hack it, or hack the lights. And then also previously in the level, I forgot to mention, 9S like takes over like a little machine guy and helps out a little bit, thus referencing the thumbnail. I thought it was funny. But 9S takes out the lights, and then the true boss fight begins. And the boss fight takes place entirely in darkness. I've never had a boss fight like this. It's entirely in darkness. You have to fight just using hearing. This is FNAF 4 all over again. And in 3 hits, easily, I'm gone. That means you have to go up the elevator again, go through that little chamber again, walk on to the little small platform from Super Smash Bros. Melee, and then you have another chance of fighting the boss. Uh-oh, you ran out of healing items. That means you have to go through the entire factory again, looking for the exact machine that would sell you healing items, and then make your way all the way back to get another chance at the boss. And let me tell you a little tip. If you're for some reason stuck on this boss like I was, even though the platform you're on is like a Super Smash Brothers platform, it does not operate like a Super Smash Brothers platform. Once the fight starts, there are invisible walls all around, and you cannot physically fall off the platform. That broke my brain. All this time I was avoiding the edges and just hugging the center as close as possible, because I was terrified of falling off or having him to get me fall off. But to show that the platform's so small, and then during the fight it doesn't matter. I don't know, man. I'm taking points away for this imperfect boss fight. So eventually, I beat this boss. it took quite a while, and it took me finally figuring out that little tip, but you eventually defeat this Dark Souls Goliath, and you exit the factory, and Pascal's like, well, that just happened, or something akin to that. And then Pascal says something like that, like they're going back to their village, and I turned around because I was gonna follow them, and they disappeared, because I thought that might have been like a cool interaction, but they were booking it back to their village. I'm trying to like envision this game's story in a wider scope, and I really wonder how it will affect Pascal going to like this crazy, almost subversion of their own beliefs. They're like, instead of their village with like pacifism, they go to like a completely different like cult that do they believe kind I was gonna say they don't believe in pacifism, but they do attack us, and they like believe in like, hey, we're meant to be like destroyed, like Toy Story 3 type deal. But I feel like it would be interesting to see how taking Pascal to this factory affects Pascal in the long run. Also, at the end of this all, Eve is seen like finding out about Adam's death, and I'm kind of interested like where that goes, right? And how much more powerful Eve could be, because I was under the assumption they were just equally powerful, right? Because when they showed up in that one boss fight, it was both of them versing 9S and 2B. So it would be interesting to see if Eve tries to get Pascal over to their side or something along those lines. But other than that, I'm not really sure what cards Eve has up their sleeve. Okay, now we're talking about the games I've recently, in quotation marks, have played. One more recently than the other. And we're talking about these games specifically because of the factory portion in NieR Automata really reminded me of this one portion in this one game, and we're getting into it, but not now. We're going to talk about the first game first, and the first game is Moon Remix RPG. You may have known the devs. They've worked on Super Mario RPG. They've worked on games like Tulip, like all these little niche games, Roll of Rose, Chibi Robo, Little King's Story, all those little niche games you see like people playing online and then go, man, that's a weird game. So Moon, why is it so special? It's called Moon Remix RPG, and it really lives up to that name, in which it's kind of, here I'm gonna speak to the kids a little bit, it's kind of the progenitor of Undertale, and I also believe like of Petscop. So if you've ever heard of those two things, released on the PlayStation originally, but only, I believe, in Japan, in Japanese. This game kind of reverses the trope, like in RPGs. It really plays with it in the beginning portion where, like, you're the hero striking down monsters, and then suddenly you're, like, trying to save the monsters that this hero has slain, right? Trying to revive their souls, and it's a terrific game to just play in 100%. There's this one portion, the rocket ship. If you've played this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It'll really get your goat. It'll make you mad. You probably need a guide for this game, but don't look at the guide all the time. It is a terrific game and really makes you not look at RPGs the same way ever again. So it's just that good. So recently, one of the main people that worked on Moon, Kimura, was like, hey, I'm going to make my last RPG ever. Like, kind of a spiritual successor to Moon. And I was following this for like a long time. And the game was called Stray Children. And it's almost like how Moon kind of inspired Undertale. This feels like Undertale inspired it in a lot of ways. But at the same time, you should absolutely not be playing this like Undertale. Why am I saying that? Because it kind of also subverts that trope. So in this game, there are fights against the monsters, unlike Moon, where it's, you're solving puzzles out in the world. And the fights are very similar to Undertale, but if you play this game exactly like Undertale, if you're Undertale coded, you will have an extremely hard time. How this game works is, like, a monster will appear, and you can fight it, or you can try and solve its, like, dilemma. And if you solve its dilemma, it is gone forever. The way it's different from Undertale is if you decide to fight a monster and kill it, it will keep coming back forever and ever until you decide to leave that zone, because each area in this game is like blocked off by certain points of no return. And in that way, it's kind of like also turning modern games on its head, because points of no return you don't really see too much in modern games. And this game came out, I want to say 2024-ish. Well, 2023 it came out in Japan, and then we had to wait a year for it to get localized. But a lot of what this game does, it takes, I want to say, older game designs and then brings them up to the modern day. How before I said you should play Moon with the guide, I meant more so, hey, just plug in the guide every once in a while if you get stuck. Stray Children, I recommend you play with the guide, like, beside you, and then you're also, like, taking notes on the other side, and then, like, never taking your eyes off the page of the guide. Like, Stray Children's a fun game. Don't get me wrong, but it's pretty tough in the ways it kind of messes with you. Like, there's items in, like, area 1, and you won't need it till, like, area 8. Like I said, there's points of no return. So if you miss that, you're out of luck. Now you may be asking, Lime, what does any of this have to do with NieR? You said before you were going to relate it back to the actual episode. All right, I hear you. Well, Stray Children has at least two parts that I can think of that remind me of. It was just one, but then I remembered the other one that call back, not directly, at least I don't think, to the factory scene. I'll talk about one. Also, spoilers, heavy spoilers for Stray Children. It's not really a game that needs spoilers, I don't think, but it's still spoilers because it's a good game and you should play it blind, but also with a guide. So the specific scene I'm thinking of is, I'm gonna go into it and you're gonna be like, what kind of game is this? So you come upon this town and they're like a bunch of kids and they're like, we gotta get experience points so we can like level up, and you're like, oh man, they're doing the thing where they're like, subverting the trope of, RPGs again. You're clever little people, onion games. And then you play through the town and I don't even know how to explain this. There's like robots teaching these kids about, you gotta level up to the next level of life. And you climb this tower and the kids are like, now I'm like the next level, I have my angel wings and I'll ascend to the next part of life. And there's like a bunch of kids up there, and then they like get sucked up in this huge beam of light, and then it turns out that they're got sucked up into like what they think is like heaven, but it's like a roboticized island that like turns them into like batteries, and you go through and you can find like batteries of that are still like talking, and then there's like also some batteries that are like dead, and then they're all powering like this huge mechanical like kind of like palace, and it's the wildest thing. If I had to rank all the chapters in Stray Children, that one's like pretty up there. Like when you first go into the town, you don't know what you're expecting, and then when they start saying, hey, look, I'm leveling up, I'm getting experience points, and then you can buy a stick and you can, pretend like you're getting experience points like a regular RPG. You think you know where it's going, but that like really throws you for a loop. It's like, whoa, you're in not just a subversive game, but like subverting the subversion, if that makes sense. I don't even know. So hopefully that enticed you to play games that are not just, the same RPGs, the same action adventures. Give Moon a try. Give Stray Children a try. Give NieR Automata a try. I'm not sure why you'd be listening to a podcast about NieR Automata without having played it, but I'm sure there's someone. And I'm talking to you right now. Give NieR Automata a try. Right now. That's all the time we have for today. Join me next time where I talk about more NieR Automata. Probably less cults, but I'm not gonna be 100% on that, because there still might be, but who can say with NieR? Bye bye.